I started writing, having fun writing when I was just a little kid in elementary school, and then got really serious about it when I was probably 18 or 19, and have done it ever since. And I've told students that the reason I'm pretty good at this is because I've really been doing it every day for 50 years. I talked to a guy at a lumberyard a number of years ago about horseshoe pitching, and he said that his Uncle Ed had been a tri-state champion horseshoe pitcher. And he said one day, he said to his uncle, he said, Ed, he said, how did you get so good at horseshoes? And Ed said, son, you got to pitch 100 shoes a day.
I am an oil painter and a pastel painter, and I paint landscapes of south central Nebraska. There are an amazing number of really lovely people who live artistically. They don't necessarily produce art to be sold in galleries or stores, but they live in a way that generates beautiful things. And I think maybe they're interesting because we don't expect them to be from Nebraska. Maybe we think they should be from a metropolitan state, New York or Atlanta or someplace. We're the same people that exist anywhere. It's just that we are unexpected because it's more rural.
It is an agricultural state, so people have worked with their hands for years and years, centuries and centuries, and I think the fact that people work with their hands sort of flows in with the artists in the state too, that everyone's a maker with their hands, and I really am attached to the land itself here in Nebraska. I think it's heavily influential on a lot of the work I make. So you're always searching for meaning when you make something. It's kind of like it has to spawn from somewhere, but I think the fact that I can just work with my hands and see a product at the end of the day, it's kind of that instant gratification where you're sitting down, you're working on something for a couple hours, and then you open up the annealer the next day and you sort of see what you've made, and it's kind of really gratifying for me.
I am from the southwestern part of the state where Kansas, Colorado, and Nebraska kind of come together and meet. The land is very important to me. My dad always said, if you don't have the land, you don't have anything. So I just was always aware of the land and farming and tilling, of course. But for me, it was even just the subtle colors and the vegetation that was growing there. I grew up probably going to town once a week. So you learn to explore and find your own fun out in the pastures and so on. I've become a hunter and gatherer as a result of that, and that it isn't fine just to sit still and do nothing, but you find yourself creating and making something out of nothing in a lot of cases.
Anyone that works, I think, on the land, you have to be creative. When you plant a seed, you basically have nothing out there. And when you make artwork projects, it's like taking a piece of bare leather. I start with basically a blank canvas of a workable medium that I can mold into what I desire. Now, when I reproduce a person's photograph as a caricature, I always tell them, first and foremost, you're not going to look good. You're going to look like you've been living on the land, and your face is going to look like you're basically made out of leather. And ironically, that's what it turns out to be.
It's pretty, no pun intended, down to earth. You pretty much get what you see. I was raised on a farm, and granted, I was a girl, and I wasn't that involved in the actual farm process, but now that I'm an adult, I appreciate it so much more, and I like to kind of capture that in some of my pieces. All of my pieces are lighthearted. I'm not going to change the world. I'm not going to interpret some heavy concept or anything like that. I'm going to make you think of maybe yesteryear or something from your past, or perhaps just a new way to look at a piece of metal which is thought to be cold and kind of heavy and sort of boring. I like to give it personality and some life and some spunk, and that's what keeps me going.
I got into boot making when I was too broken down as a cowhand to bend over and pick up my kids at night. So I was out here near Cody, of all places, at a branding, and ran into a guy who was looking to go back to work for his father on a ranch, and I was looking to get away from the ranching. We swapped places. I bought all of his machinery, and it came with a book. I built myself a pair of boots out of the book, and they absolutely didn't fit, and they're very ugly, according to me. Somebody might think they look all right, but they're pretty bad. Anyway, the second pair fit the fella they were supposed to, and I was a boot maker, and that was in about 2000. So I've been building boots since turn of the century.
I was going to school here at Hastings College. There's a private liberal arts college here, which allows you to do a lot of things that maybe a university wouldn't allow you to do, like live in Peru. And it was during my experience there that I wanted to start a business that would give back. And soap was the most logical choice, just because if you look at a map of the world, most of the world's poverty lies right around the equator. And also most of the ingredients for soap making lie right around the equator. So it's a way that I saw that you could set up small-scale soap factories in developing nations to help employ people and lift from extreme poverty, and also produce a product that's 100% needed to keep good hygiene practices. When I was going to college, and when I first had the inspiration, I wasn't sure I was going to stay here, but I like that you can travel anywhere in the world but come home to a nice community. I met my wife here, so we both realized that we enjoy living here in Hastings in the community and love Nebraska in general.
Overall, it's wonderful. When you get back here, you have time to do all the things that you wanted to do, like the spinning. It's like meditation, it is. And you know, it's wonderful to take something that is raw fiber. This, if you feel it, is greasy. It's right off the sheep. It hasn't been washed. And to take something from a process, from raw to a finished product is very satisfying. But you know, I keep it here in the saloon, so I will sit down. It makes me sit down, and I need to do that and rest a little bit and spin, and it's joyful. It's wonderful to be able to do it and turn it into beautiful things.
I consider myself a collector and a preserver. I really appreciate what everybody has done before me, and I like to restore old things. I like to make things work. I don't like to condemn things to death behind glass like in many museums. I like to take my things out and run them, restore them, show people how things work. There were a lot of bright people before us, and you know, sometimes there's some things that are being invented today that people think, oh, that's just the latest and greatest. But a lot of the things have been invented a long time ago. It's just that now we have a little bit better metals and some great technology. And I'm fascinated by mechanical things. It's like, oh my gosh, what is that? How does it work? What purpose or need did it serve? And how did it make someone else's life easier? That's what I'm always intrigued by. We all have jobs to pay the bills, and I go to work so I can come home to maybe buy some more old things to restore, fix up. I do realize life is really, really short, and I'll probably never have enough time in my life to do the things that I really want, but I'm sure trying. I'm so amazed when I see any of the young people today, and they say, oh, I'm so bored, there's nothing to do. My goodness, there's so many things to do, so many interesting, creative, unique things out there to learn and experience. It's just, to me, it doesn't seem like there's enough time in life to get it all done.